Hello everyone, and I'm back again playing yet another Need for Speed game, but this time it's Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Mobile on iOS, and specifically my mother's old iPhone 6, which I still have possession of, and seeing the retiring on August 28, 2019 is a bit of a blast from the past, and seeing the microtransactions not being available since May 2019 was a real blast from the past because I very vividly remember playing this game in the summer of 2010 and 2011. And yeah, it was a real blast from the past. No audio was recorded on this clip, which was a little disappointing because I was kind of hoping to get the game audio, but it seems to be the case that iOS just doesn't support that, as far as I'm aware of, and it's showing the iPad version, even though I'm playing on an iPhone 6s. But it is how it is, really, and that might also explain why the HUD elements are quite small on the screen. I mean, the iPhone 6s's screen was a 4.7-inch screen, so it wasn't I mean, these days it's a tiny phone, but back then it was, a revelation going from the old iPhones of whatnot. But I guess going back to these old games, there's a, pure nostalgia, really. I just read news that Sony are discontinuing PlayStation 5 disc production, so there'll be no more physical games after January 2028. And so on top of that, they're also shutting down the PlayStation Vita and PS3 stores, which I very vividly remember. I believe I might have talked about it on a video actually way back in 2020 actually, but I just remembered that whole this game's just going absolutely wonky, absolutely bonkers. I very vividly remember kind of using that as an excuse to go to power on my Vita and get everything on the 64 gig Vita memory card that I was lucky to get at the time. And now I'm probably going to be doing the same, except this time around I'm probably going to be modding it because the modding community is thriving on the Vita. It was thriving back in 2020, but it very much is thriving now. And I'm pretty sure this game's actually on there, actually, so that's quite relevant to this video. So there you go. There's something for you. But yeah, there's a bit of a shock, kind of going back to that nostalgic sort of thing at the moment where I just want to go back to comfort games because life has started to get a bit more stressful. And funny that I've started to do more videos in response to that, actually. It's funny how that's all been going, really. I want to go back to that early May, mid-May, late May, early June period of my life. I just feel like if I could spend that whole life in that bubble forever, it'd be just quiet and peaceful and just alone from everything, because going back through these games has been fun and all that, but it's been a very, very lonely, trying year for me. There's been a lot going on in my life personally, and as I get older, I feel like the windows of opportunity are just getting more and more narrow, and it's been really confrontational. I feel like I should have done things differently in my teenage years, but at the same time, that's, the lessons you learn in your adulthood. There's so many things that I can do now that I couldn't do back then, especially with my own health issues back then. So I can't really complain too much in the scheme of things. I've had a pretty good run of things, but it's been a very solemn and depressing and somewhat stressful because my new job's been pretty stressful. It's been a different challenge, and it's made me realize how important it is to have people around you, even in a place of work, where a lot of people really don't want to be there. They'd rather be out and enjoying their lives because, the amount of money we get is not really proportionate to how much we work these days, especially with how hard some of us work in retail. I mean, it's not always the case, but, I personally vouch for myself. I pride myself on going all out. So, yeah, it's just funny how that's kind of all been on my mind a lot lately, on top of playing this whole game. I will say that it's pretty funny. Going back to this game, I've been rambling about my personal life for 3 minutes, kind of like when I started that old video back in late April. Sorry about that. But it was funny thinking and seeing that there was a Windows Phone version of this game as well. And that's like kind of been the common denominator between the two mobile games I've recorded so far, is that they both had Windows Phone versions. And in my high school years, I had a Windows Phone. I had two, actually. I had a Lumia 520 and a Lumia 1520. And in fact, some of my oldest videos, including my two most popular videos of all time, actually, were recorded on my Nokia Lumia 1520 that I had for about 2.5 years as my main phone before I jumped ship to Android because, well, I mean, I remember actually as a 16-year-old, there was literally no Windows phones available. I was like, oh, what happened to all the Windows phones? And then I saw Motorola, and I'm like, oh, Motorola are still doing things. That looks cool. I bought a Motorola Moto G Play. And of course, some mobile games from 2016 and 2017 were actually recorded on that phone as well. So that's a nice little bit of trivia for you. I had to jump ship from Windows Phone to Android, and have been on Android ever since. Although, again, my parents had iPhones in my prepubescent years and in my early teens. And of course, going through that treasure trove of golden age iPhone games. I mean, there's not many of them that are playable on an iPhone 6s running iOS 15. But if I had my old iPod Touch and I was able to access my iPhone, or like access all my old purchases there, I'd be able to download like Modern Combat 3 and Modern Combat 4 and all them and play them again. But again, going back to the Vita, as I understand it, there is a Modern Combat 3 Vita port, and I so badly wanted to play that game with an actual controller as a kid. So playing that again would be really sick. But with regards to the game, I know I've been rambling about myself and nostalgia and all that for a good 5 or so minutes, but at this point in time, it's just cool to go back through this game and see that, yeah, it is really just a bite-sized version of the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit experience, which I still stand by my opinions on it as being as quite possibly one of the greatest racing games. I know it's a Burnout with licensed cars, effectively, but I mean, the formula for Burnout was so good to begin with. I mean, adding licensed cars, adding the high-octane energy, and adding some really well thought out challenges and races and whatnot. I mean, I've played that game quite a few times. I completed it on Xbox One, Xbox Series when that got a remaster. It was one of my last videos before my hiatus, actually, was doing a video on that game and how much I loved it. And then I played it on Nintendo Switch as well, because the Switch version is a really competent version of that game. And then, well, going way back, I was one of the first games I bought my Xbox 360, because I jumped on the 360 bandwagon very late. I jumped on it in 2011. Excuse me, I don't know where that burp came from. But yeah, I jumped on it very late, picked up the game for, what was it about? I think it was about $20, $20 Australian. You know, a year and a half after it comes out, it goes from being a full price game to a $20 game. And I absolutely loved it. I should have bought the DLC for it so I could have completed it on 360 with the achievements, but unfortunately I missed that window by a good margin, and I just didn't think to buy them for some reason. That was really silly of me, but oh well, live and we learn. And I guess, again, that just goes back to being able to buy those physical games. I mean, there's been not nearly as many games coming out lately because game development's gone so expensive, and, you know, there's not as much excitement in that sort of realm anymore. It's been very depressing. It's been pretty sad persisting by this hobby for so long, because things are drying up, and there's a metaphor in there for life in general, really, in my opinion. It's been very depressing. I had a lot of hope, and I guess you got to build a lot of that yourself, but it's been so disheartening just seeing all the challenges thrown at me, and it feels like it never ends. And it's been a very interesting, last couple of years. Hopefully at some point, I guess rambling it and letting it air out on this video will, help me steer myself back in the right path at some point, like it did a couple months ago when I started doing videos again. I guess I just need to play some old games again, don't I? Well, there'll be more plans for that. I'll be talking more about those games, and hopefully I'll cover this game. I actually will cover this game rather than just talking about my past a bit there. But that roughly wrapped things up, guys. That was me playing a race as a racer and a race as a cop. It's a fun game. It's unfortunately a bit difficult to get, but there are like a custom Vita version of this game, and it's playable on old Android phones. So yeah, and Windows phones. So yeah, that wraps it up, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.